Alrighty, so hi folks, welcome to my second live stream for the year. With this live stream, I just want to kind of quickly go through the project SunRock, which is actually the Knuckles Live Link plug-in I've got for the Valve Valve SteamVR Knuckles controllers, and is also a bridge towards the new input system that Valve has for their SteamVR. So this thing here, so some of the controller input bindings. All right, so I'm just gonna quickly show what the Project SunRock is about. At its very core, it's the in-between UE4 and the SteamVR input system, as I mentioned. It's made up of three major modules. We've got Live Link, which does the streaming of the live skeletal animation data using the skeleton that comes with the Knuckles. With the OpenVR SteamVR Knuckles plugin, and I've created a Knuckles VR controller, which you can see pretty much from there. We'll have a look at the actual C++ code. All right, so with this plugin, it's a re-implementation of the SteamVR controller that comes with the Unreal Engine, and basically adding a couple of features there for to support Knuckles and the new input system. So it extends as well what the engine is capable of doing in terms of the new input system. So whereas the stock UE 4.21 does create the action manifest that is required to support the new input system, it doesn't do any of the bindings, such as what you see here. So it doesn't do any of these kinds of bindings automatically for you. So this plugin will do that. So I'm just going to show quickly if I can open it. So in saved config, so once you've enabled SteamVR input, or in this case, if you just put the plugin into your project, the engine will start spitting out a SteamVR actions file, which is the action manifest. So it lists all of the actions that are available in your game, and also the different controller types and where the bindings files are. So the bindings files are JSON files, which maps out for every specific controller what button relates to what specific action. And to see that, and what comes stock with the engine is, if I go to SteamVR binding, so your project name, config, SteamVR binding. So if I open up Knuckles here, I would see specifically for Knuckles the different ways the hardware is interacting with my application. So you could see here I've got the action names, and I've got what mode that action would take and what path it would take, which is basically what you see in this dashboard. The convenience is, of course, kind of like the Unity plugin. You don't have to manually add it here or manually put the stuff here. You simply have to do it using the familiar UE4 editor. So let me just quickly go through that. Settings, plugins. So sorry, not settings, plugin, settings, project settings, and so I'm gonna go to engine input. All right, so you can see all of the bindings here. Since Unreal Engine already has this type of abstraction, so what the plugin actually does is reads through this, looks at the different mappings, compares it to the action manifest, and generates the bindings for you for each of those different controller types. So if I go back here, you could see all the different controller types: gamepad, holographic controller, Oculus Touch, Vive controller, and the plugin also adds this, which is Knuckles. The 4.21 doesn't have that by default. All right, so that is the basic stuff that it does for you, and obviously there's a couple more things, but I think I've spoken a lot about Live Link before, so I'd like to focus this stream a little bit on the other stuff that I've neglected, such as, well, setup. So let's start with the version 1.0 that I've just released today. It adds the new features that comes with OpenVR 1.2.10. As you can see here, it's the same version, I believe, in beta, and the same version in the production or in the release version. So I started adding them in yesterday and used this latest version, so that should be fairly fresh. And you could see here what I've done is, what have I done? So basically added a couple of new keys in here. Let me, if my mouse stops jumping, I'll get there. All right, so you got the VR controller key names. I've added the finger curls and the different displays that are now available using this version of OpenVR. And right over here is where we start mapping those keys towards the editor, so that they can be to the engine, so they can be available. And I've basically created a new function that reads from the API. If I can, I think I've pretty much memorized where they are by now. Been working on it all day yesterday. All right, so basically what it does is it reads whatever is in the from the API, and then exposes them to the standard message handler that comes with the engine. So there's some legacy code there from the engine, such as index script analog, which I'm just reusing. I'm not a fan of that naming, but that's what's in the engine, so I've just went along with it and added a couple of things that weren't there. I think thumb wasn't there in the original, at least that naming, but all of this code is added. The displays obviously aren't there, so I've kept it the same name as what Valve is named, so it should be fairly readable. So feel free to just rip apart the code if you need to. Obviously, I've made this plugin so that other users of Unreal Engine, without having to go edit the engine code, can fully utilize the knuckles and the use SteamVR API, even without the knuckles, just the new input system. So that's the main purpose of it, of me pulling this apart. So it's a lot more effort, but I think could be very useful for those people who don't want to, or who don't normally go to the C++ layer, don't want to bother with long compile times for the engine. So obviously, if you do have access to, if you do compile your own engine version, so this should be pretty easy for you to just grab it and make this an engine plugin. So I did test that this does compile as an engine plugin in a monolithic build. So similar to the process in the UE4 marketplace. So it should compile properly, and yeah. So, all right, so those are some of the key stuff that's in there, and let me just quickly recap that. So you end up getting this compiled SteamVR bindings, which actually relates to now world settings, project settings. My mouse started wanting to be spastic a little bit. So engine input, right? So this bindings here relates to the different generated bindings here. So that means if you want to add or change anything in here, you can freely delete this. So let me just show you that quickly. So delete this, and it will get regenerated with whatever information you have here. So I'm hoping to improve that. If no official support comes out in 422, so I'm hoping to improve that bit of it so it's a little bit more seamless. But at the moment, sorry, yeah, so you just do a simple delete and it will regenerate that. I was thinking of automatically deleting things in there, but I figured that some people might want to hand edit that, or using the dashboard fine-tune it, and so you wouldn't want to automatically delete or overwrite those files. So clever solution is to simply have an integrated to the editor here, so which should be not difficult, just obviously will take time. Yeah, and I'm just doing this on the weekends, so yeah, but feel free to the source code is open source, so feel free to put stuff in there, or create pull requests as you need to. So yeah, so ideally it would be just simply edit this and do a full make it completely editable from this UI, and so it'll be almost feature parity to what Unity devs have with the plugin from Keith. All right, so I've hammered on a little bit too much on that now. So on the SimVR bindings, what else does this plugin do? And I keep clicking things. Let me just go back to the plugin thing. So the initial setup for 1.0 RC, so you may know, the stock engine comes with 1.016. Let me just double check. Yep, it comes with a pretty old version by now of the OpenVR API. So what it needs for us to be able to do the curls and splays, which I've done in the code, is to update this. So updating it is not really difficult. It's just a lot of a couple of steps, and obviously you have to grab the latest OpenVR stuff, just to select libs and headers. So this is the source bit of it, and there's a binary bit of this. If you go to the same location in the engine, so this is a stock engine, by the way, I'm showing you. So then you got the DLLs, the compiled DLLs there, right? So let me just go back here and edit that and go back to the source directory. All right, so what we want to do is we want to put the 1.2.10 version, which is available in GitHub from Valve. So we just want to be able to do that, update the OpenVR build.cs to point to that new location, and obviously update the engine binaries as well, so that when you do a package or compile, it compiles the correct version of the API. So to do all of that, I've created a utility for you guys. I didn't add it in the demo project location, so you need to go to plugins, Knuckles Live Link, and I've added the batch file in there. So if I open that here, so it's a very simple looking script, but what it does is you just specify the location of your where you normally put your binary engine, valid drives, or you can even use this for a build, custom build engine if you just put the correct directory here, put the correct version there, and then the OpenVR version that you want to upgrade to. All right, and what it does, if you run this in PowerShell, like so, let me just demo that. So I've done shift right click in there so that the open PowerShell windows comes up. So let me just see where, yep, so let's do run me, oops, already got that. All right, and let me just open up where the engine is so you can see what happens. Alright, so it copies a bunch of the precompiled folders there, OpenVR, and then if you open this, it should point to OpenVR 1.2.10 now. And similarly, if we go to binaries here, it should add the 1.2.10 in there with all of the latest OpenVR DLLs. All right, and that's how easy it is to do the update. Obviously, I'm adding a couple of things in there. There's since there's a huge gap between OpenVR 1.0.16 and 1.2.10, if you do compile the engine from scratch, including the new OpenVR, you may need to do some changes on the SteamVR plugin that Epic created, but they're just going to be like really minor changes. So I've tried doing my own engine build, but if you're using the stock engine, I'm going to show you how it will work inside the project using this script, and I will just show you how when you do your package build, how you could use these two OpenVR versions until we wait for the official update from Epic. So at least you can start playing around with it and actually start migrating your code, I guess. So because a lot of the calls are going to be pretty much standard, and I've tried to keep it as much standard as I can, because all of the code is based on the pattern, or actually most of it is, this is actually ripped off the engine. So some parts of this code is actually part of, at least this one file here is the SteamVR controller from the engine with a lot of modifications to add stuff into it for the Knuckles support, but it does follow the basic pattern. So yeah, so it shouldn't be too different, and especially if you go to the engine, which I'll show you now, you understand why I feel that is so. Let's see. For the live link, there's no issue. It's just a plugin. So compile that. So all of this are pretty much standard. So you'll probably have a different name there. If somebody from Epic wants to name it differently, you've got, yeah. So what it's doing now, so instead of I'm directly getting all of the curl and splay values, because now it's available from the API, and then just pumping it in like normal, like how you would do a simple, I don't know, maybe a thumbstick, right? So thumbstick x-axis, right? So pretty much stack standard. You will probably, my understanding is it's going to be a generic skeletal input controller as well. So, but it should follow the same pattern as anywhere else in the engine. You're spitting out axis values for the different curls and splays, and yeah. So, which is what I've done here. So this is using the new latest OpenVR, while some parts of the SteamVR is still actually using calls to the older API. So just to get it working for you guys who don't have to, or who don't want to actually do engine rebuilds, right? Okay, so you just go through this, and then I've explained a little bit about the core modules. The dependencies are the SteamVR plugin, which comes with the engine, and if you're using Live Link, you're going to need the Knuckles Live Link plugin. This is wrong. The Epic Live Link plugin. The Knuckles Live Link plugin basically adds a new streaming source to the Live Link plugin. Alright, so I'm going to skip Live Link for now. The auto generation I've explained, how everything gets auto generated for you, so it's a lot more convenient to work with. The packaging and publishing your project. Alright, I did promise I was going to show that bit. So let me just show this is because this is a live stream, I didn't want to be compiling for quite a bit of time. I did a package earlier, and what you basically need to do is in the Windows No Editor, obviously you can rename that, Windows No Editor, just drop the plugin directly here, so Knuckles Live Link. just delete some of the stuff that you don't need, such as these stuff here. Yeah. Live link, run me once. Yeah, these 4 here you don't need, so you can safely delete those. And you'll end up with just these, right? And yeah, and for this version, because as I mentioned, if you don't want to compile your own version of the engine will automatically, what it does is it adds the latest one, sorry, this 1.210 here, and grab the version, the old one, version 1016, and drop it here as well, so that your code will work. Because this Steam VR plugin that comes with the engine, there's some initialization calls that rely on the old API. So just put that in there and it should work. As well as obviously the latest one comes here automatically because we've updated the engine OpenVR. And so that's why we never delete some of the older APIs here. So just add stuff into there, like new versions. All right. So, and that should make your build work. The other thing that I think I might have forgotten to mention, so this saved config SteamVR actions file will be automatically generated. You don't need to copy that over. Your bindings though, so the project name, config, SteamVR bindings, all of these stuff, you need to copy it manually from your project directory. So because the engine doesn't do that during compile, which is I think something that might be a good pull request or an edit to the engine. Come to think of it, I'll just note that down because that's quite important. All right, so but at the moment, yeah, it's quite manual, or I can create another script, I guess, to do that, to do all of those manual things, just to make it easy, especially once you're doing publishing to Steam. You'd want to keep this as smooth as possible. All right, so let's go back there, and some notes here. I've got a couple. This is like very common. People asking me how to reset the action manifest. You just do it from here, so you can reset it. Obviously, if you want to go back or undo what the plugin has done, all you need to do, I mean, for the updating of the OpenVR in the engine, so all you need to do is actually go to okay, I've gotten to the root, so 4.21 engine, it will be in source, third party, OpenVR should be here somewhere, yep, and you don't need to even delete that, just change this build.cs if you want to return to the old version, and just change this to 1016, which is the last version in here. And then there you go, then you'll be back to how it was before you run that script that came with the plugin. All right, so that's how to recover from that if you want to. Why, I don't know, but yeah, but you can. So all right, so we've just gone quickly through how to use the plugin, and then obviously just use it as normal. So I've tried to develop it to be as ubiquitous as possible, so you focus on your code and not on how to link things up from the engine to the SteamVR dashboard. So now for the fun stuff. So I thought I'll throw in a couple of demos with the new curls and splay function here. So I've done a very simple recognized gesture. I was planning to create a marketplace asset for this, but obviously with a lot more sophistication and not in Blueprint, but I wanted to kind of quickly prototype it and mock it up, and decided to just share it so you could see how I'm doing it. And it's also good as a debug, right? So this function recognize gesture, if you go back to the event graph, if you click debug print, what it'll do is during runtime it should, maybe I'll just show it. it should spit out all of the values. So here, the curls and splays, and I'll show you what I use that for. Okay, so got my knuckles not running. So I'm using this, was said to be sturdier PVs, but I've not been able to destroy any DV. So, all right, so you could see here. So the values coming up there. Let me just take off my headset so I can see the screen. I'm pointing on roughly the right direction. Yeah. So as you can see from there, the values of displays are coming in. So if I wanted to, for example, record a gesture, let me just put this back to the thing, like this one, which is the I love you one, or let's do the surf's up, right? So like this, like that. So it'll do the curls and displays for that, do it for a couple of frames, then stop it, right? And what I do is go to the output log. Okay, I may have run that, and then just get the last couple of stuff in there, right? So I start with the index, if I recall correctly. So you see from there. So index, middle, ring, pinky, curl, and then you've got the thumb index splay, index middle splay, middle ring splay, and then ring pinky splay. And these are the values for that particular gesture, which is the surf's up, right? So if I go to my code and just do this, and just show you, obviously it's a lot more succinct in C++, but a lot for more visual people, you could see it immediately here. That's the surf's up. So you basically just grab index curl, middle curl, ring curl, pinky curl, thumb curl, coming from this function here, right? And being fed via the plug-in values, right? So if I go back here, so index curl, didn't do it like exact, obviously, because it's hardware, and if you've been using the knuckles for a while, you know that sometimes it can be a little bit inaccurate. So I put a little bit of tolerance level there, so 0.9. What should that be? I think that should be 1, right? So, and then actually that's quite wrong. Maybe not the very last frame, because might have captured. Yeah, I wasn't careful there. Normally I wouldn't have the headset on in my eyes and just looking at the screen and doing an Alt F4. So yeah, so look for the correct values, I guess, from up here. And then once you get that, which is roughly around there, right? So index curl, so this one's right. So 1.0, so greater than 0.9, and then the ring is, I've created a tolerance of 0.5. This is through fine-tuning it, like play testing it. I noticed that it shouldn't be 0.9, and then middle curl is greater than 0.9, pinky curl. So I didn't add displays. I just felt that it didn't, it was too restrictive, and some people might not be gesturing it the same way I do. So, or I could spend more time tweaking the values if I wanted to. But I noticed like just doing the curls is enough. Obviously, if you want to do 200 gestures, you do a more sophisticated version of this, or even doing combinations with the rotations of the motion controllers. Yeah, so it's a lot of things you can do, but I just kind of wanted to demo what can be done and how cool it is. So feel free to play test the demo. It's pretty cool. I feel. And the also kind of like this one, I just quickly made a, well, maybe not quickly, but this part is obviously quick, just doing a hand mesh swap and doing the anims. The plugin feeds the information in already. So let me just see where the animation is. All right, so all of these are the curl values, right? That comes in, and did a simple, where is it? Let me just go to, put that in to show you the animation blueprint. So very simple layered blend, and what I'm doing there is I'm layered blending it, and I've just captured a single frame pose. So how I did that, for those who aren't familiar, so you just basically pose your asset from here, do any pose you want. Skeleton tree, I'm just gonna mess around with it a little bit. Alright, so something like that, and create asset, create animation, current pose, and that should save the animation for that. And you could do a layered blend per node. Obviously there's 100 different ways of doing this, but probably one of the easiest is this. And then just do, as you put in the different animation poses, obviously the if you just blindly add them, they will not look right because they're going to be added together. So you need to do some filtering. So just have a look at how I'm doing my branch filters here, using the bone names and how the additions are being done, and you could kind of get a feel of how I pieced this together. So yeah, I guess it can be deceptively simple looking, but there's a couple of key things there. So just pointing that out. So obviously, I'm in no way an animation engineer, so I mean an animation person, but yeah, but this is I feel it's a pretty simple way and quick way to do something like this, and then it does a pretty decent job, let's say, of doing the, if I can turn on my, did it turn off? What's going on? Ooh, that's not good. I did notice that 1.210 seems to be a bit more cranky. Not what I wanted. Oh, sorry, that's the actual build. Where is the actual source code? Right, so so I did a layered animation for that, and I was gonna show something else that is also critical for that to work. Just kind of want to show it quickly. Sorry, just turn on my thing. I did A and B. Right, so then you could see wearing the headset now, but yeah, you can swap between the meshes and do all sorts of cool animation. And all of these, by the way, all of these poses, I roughly did it last night, so yeah, feel free to criticize them. They're not meant to be professional or anything, but just to show you the key concepts. And although they do look quite alright, I think. Yeah, so did I show the gesture recognition as well? No. So most of the code is actually not in Epic Assets, but in SunRock Core. Most of the core code is here. So this warning comes up because we're doing it as a project plugin instead of an engine plugin. It's a bit annoying, but it does work. Just compile it and just ignore it. Yeah, and then I'm just simply swapping out the meshes and setting the visibility. I'm not even running the, if I remember correctly, I'm not even running the animation if it's not visible, because otherwise it's a waste. All right, and I'm hoping I don't forget haven't forgotten something. And the rest are already part of the old version of the plugin, so feel free to just have a look on how I pieced everything together. The grab, the teleport, distance grab, the grip force, something that I call the force as well, where you can push and pull objects in the distance. And yeah, and this is just for haptics and stuff. All right, so did I cover everything I want to cover? So this is just, I was too lazy to think of a mechanic, so I'm just spitting out the values there. And yeah, as well as the gesture recognition. Alrighty, so let's see. I seem to trying to remember, there was another point I wanted to make on the animation, for the Unreal animation. So a couple of yeah, I think I've shown how to create the animations themselves. And yep, so if you can do something more fine-tuned, be good if you can share as well. But yeah, so you can do obviously more sophisticated, so gesture recognition. So this is like a quick one in an hour or so to do, just to show you how quickly you can do things with the engine if a lot of the pipe work, C++ stuff has already been done. So basically just consuming the values instead of doing all of the extra stuff, extra framework stuff. But yeah, so that's there for you guys. Feel free to play around. Let me know any feedback or any issues that you may have. So obviously I tried to test this as much as I can, but I'm one person, so there might be some use cases that I've forgotten or maybe I haven't documented. It should be fairly straightforward though, so I tried to look for the easiest way for most users to be able to use the plugin, even with someone with zero C++ knowledge should be able to use the plugin. So you basically just need to know how to install Visual Studio and then compile. So yeah, so that should be a no-brainer. Yeah, but most Unreal Engine users obviously have knowledge of C++, so feel free to rip this apart as much as you need and put it in your own projects. And I'd love to hear what you guys use it for. So I've already got like a number of people telling me about what they do and also asking questions about it. So I'm really happy to provide info if I can answer the questions. So obviously I don't memorize the entire API, but I've played around with it quite a bit, so may know some stuff and might save you some time looking for it yourself. Yeah, and also learned some stuff from other people during conversations and during tests that they may have been doing, like some guy I've been chatting with, working with the trackers and having issues, and then looking through that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm in the VR Dev Slack channel, so if you guys are in there, just hit me up, Runberg, is the name and the, yeah, so I've been posting there. And obviously if you've got the in Discord as well, although I use Discord for work as well, so I tend not to reply to too many stuff in there, and I tend to reply obviously for some of this hobby stuff after work or during the weekend. So but yeah, but hit me up and let me know how you guys go. Thanks so much for listening in me ramble, but hopefully I've been able to share some info about the plugin. And for those who's keen, please read the code, and yeah, feel free to grab stuff that you need. So it's all open source for you guys. So all right, thanks again, and see you in the next live stream.